Hello guys, welcome back once again to another episode of Learn Data Analytics with Blessing. If you are just visiting my page for the very first time, my name is Ibrahim Blessing and I'm that data analyst that is passionate about growth. In today's tutorial, we'll be looking at temporary tables. And what are temporary tables? Just like the name implies, they are tables that are used to store data temporarily for queries. Here, we'll be looking at two types, which is the temp table and the global temp table. For this temp table, this is a temporary table that is specific to a particular session. Why for global temp table? If you have like 5 users working on different sessions in a database and a global table, temporary table gets created by one of the users, all other users can have access to the temp table, can retrieve data from that temp table. So once the last user is done with his or her session, this global temp table gets deleted. Unlike this temp table here, once the session is done for that particular, it's only specific to a user, to a session. Once that session is done, it gets deleted automatically. One of the usefulness of temporary tables is the fact that they help us to organize and process our data before the final output. Then it helps reduce load on the permanent table. So let's look at a practical example on how to create temp tables and global temp table. So I'll start with this. Just like normal way you create your table in SQL, I'd come here and say create table. Then what is the table name? The only difference is you add hash at the back of the table name. So let's assume I'm keeping the table temp sales. So I'll say hash temp sales. Then of course you have to specify what the column headers would be. First, product ID int, comma, then we have sales amount, that is decimal, open my parentheses, then I have 10,2, close parentheses and end this. So I'll run this now and you see that we have the table F5, command successful. How do I insert values into it? Normal way of inserting, insert into hash. You have to always include the hash because it's a temporary table. Hash temp sales. Then I'll specify what my values should be. Values are, open my bracket, first one 1, comma 500.00, close it, comma, the next one, open my parentheses 2, comma, I'm only inserting 2 rows of data into this. Then I have 750.00, close my parentheses, and let's run this. F5. How do you see the data you just inserted into this table? Don't forget command for retrieving of data. Select all from, I have to specify hash temp tables. Then I'm going to run this now. F5. As you can see, we have our table. So for this temporary table, once I'm done with this session, once I leave this session, it gets deleted automatically. And you can as well drop this table yourself if you don't want to wait until you're done with your session and you want to drop it. You can just say drop table, then make sure you include the hash temp sales, and that will drop that for you. So let's see, F5, and that's dropped the table. You can also get data from another table into a temporary table, a temp table. So let's assume I want to create a table with the name temp customer. So let's come here and I would say create, before we look at global, create table, and I'll say hash temp customers. Then what are the column headers? Customer ID, that is int, comma, total amount, that is decimal, open my bracket and I'm saying 10,2. I'll close it. Let's run this now and create the table F5. So we have incorrect, so I'm yet to add the second parenthesis to close that up. So I'll run this now, F5. So how do I insert data into it? That particular orders data we're using before, let's look at it. We're going to get the customer ID and the total amount from that table. So let's look at select all from orders table. So I'll run this now, F5. As you can see, so I'm going to bring this customer ID and the total amount here. So how do I insert values? I'll just clear this off. Insert into hash temp customers. Then I would say select, what am I selecting? Select customer ID, comma, the total amount. From where? From the orders table. So we have this orders. Let me add the R here. R. So let's run this now. So I'm saying select the customer ID and total amount from the orders table into the temp table for customers. I'll run this now. F5. So you can see 20 rows affected. How do I see that? I would say select all from hash temp customers. F5. So you can see. So I can query off this temporary table instead of working with the permanent table. This is one of the usefulness. So for this global temp table, like I said, how that we have more than one user working on different sessions in a particular database, they can all retrieve data from this global temp table. But once the last person is done with his or her session, the table gets deleted automatically. So I'd come here. How do I create it? Normally you create, but this time around, instead of one hash, you add in double hash. So create table hash hash. Then I'll say let's look at global sales. Then I'll just go back to copy what I imputed for the temp sales. I don't want to go by it again. I'll just copy this, Ctrl C. Then let's go back to where we have our global sales, and I'll paste it here. Ctrl V. Just do little changes. So I'll come here. So let's go by it again. Yes. So I'll copy all this, Ctrl C. Then I'll come here and paste it here instead. Ctrl V. So we have this create table, a global temp table with product ID and sales amount. Insert into, so this time around I'll change this from temp sales to hash global sales. So we have this. So let's run this now. So create table global sales. Then once you are done, insert these values into it. So I'll just run it F5. 2 rows affected. How do I see this? I'll change this from temp sales to hash hash global sales, and you would be able to see all the data out there. F5. You'd see it. So if other users are going to be using that global temporary table you created, you have to be very careful not to drop that table manually. Let it drop itself once the last user ends his or her session. But if you are sure nobody is using it and it's not useful for anybody, then you can drop it at your end. So if I come here and say drop table, drop hash global sales, F5, it will drop that table. So you have to be sure first if you don't have any user using it, or it's not useful to any user, and it's just, but if it's only you working on a session, you only need that temporary table, then you just use the hash temp tables, create that. So I hope I'm able to pick 1 or 2 from this session. We'll meet again in our next video. As usual, don't forget to practice, like and share this video to those you know needs to watch this.